Good evening, everyone. I think the subject which business world has picked up, innovation and boom for emerging technology, is very crucial subject. And I congratulate your team for picking up such a important subject because MSME, SMEs both are in today's world driven by innovation. And when it comes to innovation, how much ease of doing business has actually reached to MSMEs is difficult to assess. I think that also is a separate subject in where we can talk whole day. Looking at startup, we have many in sales and many programs, but for MSMEs, basic principles which are not only on the national level but also on the international standards and international level, it's been a concern that how much ease we have actually been possible and we have been successful to deliver to this sector. And all of you would agree that to do business in India, there are 4 or 5 very important parts that we need to consider for this sector. Is policy is one of them. Policy not in the sense of conventional, traditional, but policy in the sense of taking care of an emerging business or emerging tech. Same policy which we use for making roads cannot be used for doing something which has a 3D printing involved or something which has a precast wall or a bridge or a flyover involved. So are we in that sync, in that pace to bring policy on that same platform where we are bringing these emerging techs? And second is compliance. Compliance has always been an issue. Sometimes some sectors, particular trade and particular business are over regulated. Some of them are under regulated. So keeping a balance in the compliance where it should be minimal exertion of resource and time and money for this sector has always been a target. And third, definitely finance. Finance and accessibility of finance to an emerging tech is never been an easy world. It's been always very difficult to actually reach out to people who are ready to finance drones, 3D printing, geospatial, AI, ML, all this, who does not have a very scalable structure in place when you are approaching a table for finance, is a difficult financial project to go through. And particularly when we talk about emerging tech, one more difficulty that this sector has been experiencing very wide and very common is standards and compliances. Standards, particularly in terms of what kind of technical standard India wish to go with it, and what kind of certification we wish to give to that industry, and how we wish to regulate that in future. And last but not least is the ground implementation. All of you would see a lot of policies came in last 7 8 years, but when we talk about ground implementation, it's been very difficult to implement. Now, my understanding about making doing thing possible in a way, in a manner, is happening layer by layer, and these layerings are being achieved. Sometimes we lack, and these are the very crucial discussions which we try to do on different forums. So today I would like to speak about 4 or 5 very crucial, emerging programs who are trying to keep pace with the industry. One of them is listing. Listing has been done in India very promptly, and when I say listing, it includes all type of listing on your e-commerce website, or on a yellow page listing, or a mart, or a business model listing. So all type of people who are connected, who are developing something in a offshore or in a remote part of country, are listed somewhere with their product unicity. Now in this era of digitalization globally, not only on the basis on the platform of the nation, but still second part is coming unaddressed. When we talk about listing, there is a large sector and there is a large innovation solution which does not have a product, who does not have a material to be dispatched or to be shipped. They are mostly coming as services. And when we talk about service, rating and certification, trust has been a long, large issue for them. So, how do we rate a service and how do we implement that service contract is been a challenge. This second layer of SME has been a crucial challenge for all of us. For an example, a listing website lists many of the listing, like a lawyer service, a chartered accountant service, a contract implementation, a company which is into e-mobility or which is into e-commerce. But how do they respond to their customers? How do they respond to the contracts and orders awarded to them? It's very difficult to hold a very transparent certification and rating in that. It's been a challenge, and I guess in coming year there might be a couple of pilots, there might be a couple of very promising programs who will be coming and talking about this. As far as government approach is concerned, one very promising, proven to be a reform, bold reform, which has came is central depository of compliance. We never used to have such a dynamic portal where if you are applying for a certain license, a clearance, which SME sector needed on state level or central level, you can list that application or that request on this portal. So now on national level, these kind of pendencies will be visible and available. Second very important part is after listing is business contracts. Contractual implementation and implementation of a business contract in India has been a very crucial issue. And this, I think, is a very important critical part of our ease of doing business ranking also. So जब भी contract implementation की बात होती है, वहाँ what kind of infrastructure, which includes codes, commercial codes, they all come together to deliver this. If I say we for a commercial dispute, we used to take somewhere around 1500 days before. Now it has been limited to 400 days. If you talk about an export clearance, it used to take somewhere around 280 to 300 hours before. Now it has been limited to 140 hours. If you talk about environment clearance, it used to take months for a small business. Now it has been comprised into weeks. So these kind of achievements are only possible when everything and anything pending and tabled before government or any agency or regulatory body, be it state or center, should be visible, available in public domain for governance and leadership. Very crucial part of global e-commerce, which our previous speaker has spoken, and I totally agree with this thought process that if you are developing and creating something which has a niche demand in market, then no matter how and what kind of infrastructure needed, it's our whole and holistic responsibility to create a market, smooth landing, smooth dispatch and shipment of that particular product, not only to a part of India, but also to globe. And this kind of global e-commerce is something next, which is going to come up with a integrated project like Gati Shakti, where the cost of traveling of a product from a remote part of India through the highway, airport, shipment, cargo, and export has to come up next into 2020-22. So how do we wish to do this? There might be a lot of technology embedded and connected to it. If I refer to previous infrastructure for clearance of export, which used to take 280 to 300 hours, it used to everyone who is willing to do a business overseas have to appoint a consultant, have to appoint a broker, export import broker, who usually have their own handshakes at different points, and whatever needed used to be submitted over the counter physically. Now on the basis of the global e-commerce thought process of India's economy for SME, a new way of doing dispatch and shipment, which is called tag, track, and toll, where all necessary information related to the package, consignment, or maybe a container is comprised into a digital tag. It's comprised into a form which also has a provision of digital signature. And right from the place where the seller has dispatched it and the buyer is expecting, all places, at all checkpoints where you have to pay central excise, custom, or any type of toll or clearance, the same reference number and ID number or the package can be accessed and can also be paid online. So it reduces the role of agency, a broking agency, who has their different type of arrangement. At some time, it's also been a very difficult challenge for regulatory bodies to actually implement large level of reduction subsidies because of these intermediary agencies. So when we talk about SMEs, the globe is a market for them, and making it possible, at least tariff, at least freight has to be the next target for Gati Shakti, and also has to be the next target for global e-commerce for Indian product. And how do we propose to meet, and how do we use to design it? It's been an interesting part where traveling a product through train, traveling a product through water, and product through land has different tariffs. And for us and for the entire MSME sector, it's very important to reduce that cost. Otherwise, when we are competing with an international product, particularly our neighbor country like China, it's not only the cost of the product which we are going to sell on the bracket of selling price, but also the cost which is involved in carrying that product from its origin point to the shipment point. If it is too high, we'll never be able to compete. We'll never be able to come across with a segment where we have subsidies and subsidies based model. So a lot of pilot in this direction in this program, which is going to bring this commercialization versus the freight cost. My very brief understanding about MSME sector is to work on the second layer. After listing, there has to be a rating system, and there has to be a very comprised and very consumer oriented, feedback oriented rating system for services. Services are very important. If SME sector would not be able to trust consulting services, or maybe a service which is going to give them a globe as a market with an e-commerce website, or maybe an AI and ML, maybe an AI ML learning, or maybe an e-commerce platform. It would be difficult if people who are not taking consulting assignments, who are not taking services, and their commitment to buyer or seller very seriously, because contract implementation is not so well, and it's not so standardized in doing it. Any brief idea, any question related to e-commerce or what we are planning to do next, is I'm more than welcome to take that